What's going on, everybody? Earlier today on SportsCenter, there was a trade proposal that sparked a pretty intense discussion, and I want to walk you through everything that was said and why it matters. The idea itself didn't come out of nowhere. It has actually been floating around for a while, but now it's picked up traction thanks to the Dallas Hoops Journal, which pushed it into the spotlight, and that's what got the attention of the analysts on the show. The deal being talked about is pretty straightforward. Derek Lively and Caleb Martin would head to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for Austin Reaves and a future first-round pick. Now, the way it was discussed on SportsCenter was really interesting because the proposal is being driven from the Dallas side of things. That's key here. This isn't a Lakers blog throwing out wild ideas. This is Dallas media suggesting that the Mavericks should be the ones targeting Austin Reaves, and they've built a case for why it makes sense. On the program, they highlighted how Reaves could step into a big role right now for the Mavericks, while also being a long-term piece who could grow alongside Luka Doncic. The panel pointed out that Dallas is in a position where they're still trying to find that perfect balance around Luka. D'Angelo Russell was brought in, but on SportsCenter it was emphasized that Russell isn't seen as a permanent solution. He's more of a gap filler, a player who can handle minutes and provide offense, but may not be part of the Mavericks' core in the future. Austin Reaves, on the other hand, offers versatility. He can handle the ball, he can play off the ball, he can shoot, and he's shown that he isn't afraid of big moments. For a Dallas team that has dealt with uncertainty around Kyrie Irving, having Reaves would give them stability now and insurance for the future. Of course, the big question is how he fits once Kyrie is fully back. On SportsCenter, they broke this down by suggesting that the Mavericks could experiment with different lineup, staggering minutes, and letting Reaves take some of the ball-handling burden to keep Kyrie and Luka fresh. It wouldn't be perfect right away, but the idea is that it gives Dallas more flexibility than they currently have. But let's not forget the Lakers' perspective. On the show, it was made clear that Los Angeles shouldn't rush into this kind of deal. The Lakers value Reaves highly, and giving him up, along with a first-round pick, would be a huge price. The analysts argued that before even considering such a move, the Lakers would want to see how their roster looks once the season settles, particularly with Ayton in the mix. That's another big part of the discussion. The chemistry between Ayton and Luka Doncic could change everything for Dallas. If those two click and become a dominant pairing, then suddenly Dallas doesn't need Derek Lively as much as they thought. Lively is younger, yes, and he has upside, particularly on defense as a rim protector. But Ayton, right now, is the more polished player. He's the one who can step in immediately, provide offense, score in multiple ways, and give you production without needing plays drawn up for him. On SportsCenter, they stressed that this is what makes Ayton so valuable for a team that wants to contend right now. Where it gets tricky is on the defensive side. Ayton himself has admitted that he wants to buy in more, that he wants to prove he can anchor a defense, but up until now, that hasn't always been consistent. Lively, even though he's raw, already has that defensive edge. He's younger, more athletic in certain aspects, and offers rim protection that Ayton sometimes lacks. The analysts debated whether Dallas would be better off keeping that defensive potential in-house rather than moving him in a trade like this. So the takeaway from SportsCenter was this. The trade idea is fascinating, and it's gaining traction for a reason. Dallas sees value in Reaves. Lakers fans, on the other hand, would need to be convinced that giving up both Reaves and a first-round pick is worth it. And for Los Angeles, timing is everything. They don't need to jump into this right now. They need to evaluate their roster, see how Ayton fits, and then maybe revisit deals down the road if things don't play out the way they expect. At the end of the day, this isn't just a fan-driven rumor anymore. It's something being taken seriously by Dallas reporters, debated by national media, and analyzed on one of the biggest sports platforms in the world. Whether or not it ever happens, the fact that it's being discussed at this level shows that both Austin Reaves and Derek Lively have real value in today's NBA market. And that's what makes this conversation so important. Not because it's guaranteed to go through, but because it highlights how teams like the Lakers and Mavericks are constantly looking for ways to maximize their rosters around their star. So continuing with what was discussed earlier on SportsCenter, the focus shifted heavily to the defensive side of the ball and how the comparison between DeAndre Ayton and Derek Lively plays into this trade conversation. The analysts made it clear that while Lively has shown flashes of being an elite rim protector and could develop into one of the top defensive centers in the league, Ayton still brings qualities that shouldn't be overlooked. They highlighted that Ayton, during his years in Phoenix, proved that when he commits to playing defense, he's more than capable of holding his own. Now, he might never reach the same ceiling that Lively has defensively, because Lively truly has the potential to be a top 5 shot blocker in the NBA, someone who could realistically find himself on an all-defensive team down the road. But Ayton has already shown that he can anchor a defense when engaged, while still producing on the offensive end in ways Lively simply cannot at this stage of his career. The discussion emphasized an important trade-off. If Ayton gives you reliable production, say 18 points and 10 rebounds per night, and potentially even more when playing alongside Luka Doncic, that's extremely valuable. With Luka drawing so much defensive attention, Ayton could very well raise his scoring into the low 20s, which would make him one of the more impactful offensive centers in the Western Conference. And the analysts on the show made the point that in today's NBA, sometimes it's better to have a very good offensive center who's at least solid defensively, rather than a center who is elite defensively but offers very little on the offensive end. Lively's ceiling is intriguing, no doubt. His defensive instincts, his timing as a shot blocker, his ability to move in pick-and-roll coverage, all of that makes him a valuable piece for the Mavericks. There were even mentions of Mark Cuban's past comments about Lively's potential to eventually stretch the floor and add a three-point shot to his game. If that happens, his value skyrockets. But, as the SportsCenter panel pointed out, that's still all projection, not reality. Right now, Lively is mostly limited to rim running, lob catching, and defensive playmaking, which doesn't guarantee the kind of impact Ayton can already bring on both ends. Because of that, the analysts stressed the importance of patience. Dallas needs to let things play out before deciding whether this trade is really worth pursuing. They need to see how Lively looks in an expanded role. They need to evaluate Ayton's production and buy in on defense. And they need to test the on-court chemistry between Luka Doncic and a player like Austin Reaves if they were ever to acquire him. When the conversation turned specifically to Reaves, SportsCenter really broke down the divide in how people view him. There are fans who believe he's a future superstar, practically waiting for LeBron James to retire so that Reaves can take over as the face of the Lakers. And then there are those on the opposite end of the spectrum who dismiss him as overrated, claiming he's not even worth a serious roster spot. The truth, as the panel explained, is somewhere in the middle. Austin Reaves is not a generational superstar, but he is far from being an average role player. He's a high-level guard, someone who can flirt with all-star status in the right situation, and his skill set makes him a very good player for any team looking to build depth and versatility in the backcourt. The concern raised, however, is about his long-term fit alongside Luka Doncic. Reaves is at his best when the ball is in his hand. That's when he creates. That's when he's most comfortable. Playing off the ball, particularly as a spot-up shooter, hasn't been his strongest attribute so far. Now, he can improve in that area. It's not a skill set that's completely out of his reach, but as of right now, his game overlaps a little too much with Luka's. That's the challenge. How do you maximize both players' strengths without minimizing one of them? That's the type of detail Dallas would need to figure out if they were ever serious about pursuing this deal. So the program's takeaway was balanced. Ayton brings proven offense with solid defensive potential. Lively is raw, but has elite defensive upside. And Reaves is a very good guard whose value depends largely on fit. That's why the analysts kept circling back to the same point. It's too early for either side to rush into this. Both Dallas and Los Angeles need more time to see what they already have before deciding whether a trade like this makes sense for the future. On SportsCenter, the conversation moved into another important angle, And that's Austin Reaves' own willingness to adapt his game. The point was made that Reaves himself has been vocal about needing to adjust in order to play effectively alongside Luka Doncic. He knows that with Luka controlling so much of the offense, he can't simply operate the way he does when the ball is always in his hands. Reaves has admitted he needs to become a better shooter off the ball, that he needs to move more effectively without it, and that he has to buy in defensively at a higher level. The analysts explained that this kind of self-awareness is critical. You don't want to strip away what makes Austin Reaves such a valuable player: his ability to create, to control pace, to make plays out of the pick and roll, but you also need that balance. When Luka is being Luka, orchestrating everything on offense, Reaves has to complement that rather than overlap with it. But when Luka is on the bench, or sitting out for a night, that's when Reaves can shine fully. We've seen him in those situations already, especially when LeBron James sits out in Los Angeles. Suddenly, Reaves steps into the role of lead creator, and the numbers show he can deliver. 28 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists type of nights are within his reach. That's exactly the kind of production Dallas would love to tap into when Luka isn't on the floor. But here's where the hesitation came in. On SportsCenter, they emphasized that unless the trade for Reaves is a clear no-brainer, one of those deals you absolutely cannot pass up, it might be smarter to hold off. The idea of moving Austin Reaves plus a first-round pick just to bring in Derek Lively and Caleb Martin raised some eyebrows on the show. Some analysts acknowledged that fans might call that a steal, but the panel questioned whether it truly makes sense given the current context. The key issue is this: if DeAndre Ayton develops into the long-term solution at center, then why would the Lakers essentially sell the farm to get Derek Lively? If this were last season, before the Ayton trade, when the Lakers were still searching desperately for a young center to pair with their core, then yes, a move like Reaves and a first-round pick for Lively might have been justified. In fact, on the show, they pointed out that if the Mark Williams opportunity had fallen apart at last year's trade deadline, then targeting Lively in a package like this would have been a priority. But the circumstances have changed. With Ayton now in the picture, the Lakers have someone who, if things click, could be the centerpiece of their front court for years. That makes the calculation different. The show also brought up the financial element. Derek Lively would be on a cheap rookie contract for several years, giving the Lakers flexibility as they plan ahead. Meanwhile, if Ayton truly proves himself in Los Angeles, his market value jumps right back up, likely into the 20+ million range annually. And while that's a big number, it's also the kind of number you're only willing to pay if the player has earned it, if he's been highly productive, if he's helped the team win, if he's shown that he's indispensable. In other words, paying Ayton that kind of money would actually be a good problem to have, because it means the Lakers are getting the version of Ayton that can elevate them to another level. That's not a scenario where you regret the contract. That's one where you celebrate that the gamble paid off. So the ultimate takeaway from SportsCenter was that this is a trade you can understand from both perspectives. For the Lakers, it represents a chance at securing a long-term franchise center in Lively, while still holding Ayton in the present. For Dallas, it's about finding that secondary playmaker who can support Luka right now and give the team insurance for a post-Kyrie era. The panel noted that, even in the worst-case scenario, Dallas would still have solid young pieces like Daniel Gafford to anchor the front court, while adding a guard like Reaves to their young core moving forward. The consensus was that this deal is intriguing on paper, but complicated in reality. Both teams have reasons to be interested, but also very valid reasons to hesitate. That's why this isn't a trade that feels imminent, but rather one that will continue to be debated, analyzed, and reevaluated as the season unfolds. Look, the Lakers still have a young enough core to build around long-term, but let's really break this down. Caleb Martin? I like him a lot. He's tough. He's proven. He's the kind of 3-and-D wing every contender wants. But here's the real question. Is that the best way for the Lakers to use their assets? I'm not convinced. This isn't a knock on Derek Lively either. The kid is already showing flashes of being special. What he did during that finals run? Ridiculous. He could absolutely grow into an all-star center. If the Lakers actually pulled this off, you could argue it makes sense. But here's the catch. If DeAndre Ayton is already filling that role for you, why on earth would you flip Austin Reaves plus a first just to get another center? Think about it this way. Would you rather have Luka Doncic and Derek Lively together? Or Luka Doncic with DeAndre Ayton plus whatever you can turn Reaves and that first-round pick into? Personally, I'd take the second option all day. Imagine flipping those assets into someone like Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, guys who bring elite defense and versatility on the wing. That, paired with Luka and Ayton, is a more complete, balanced team. And let's not forget, Reaves is more than just a throw-in. He's proven he can be a 20-point scorer when stars sit. He has playmaking ability, he fits with stars, and he's clutch. Giving that up for a position you might already have covered? Risky move. So, for me, it's about building the right unit. Luka with Ayton anchoring the paint, surrounded by long, switchable two-way wings. Guys like Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, even someone like Jake LaRavia if he develops, or Bronny James if he grows into that defensive stopper role. That's a formula. That's the kind of roster that can win deep in the playoffs. But if you go with Luka and Lively, then what? You're scrambling to fill the gaps everywhere else. That's the gamble. If DeAndre Ayton really is the answer at center, then the Lakers don't need to be chasing another big man. Even if Derek Lively turns out to be the better player years from now, I'd still take Ayton plus more pieces around him. Why? Because that gives you depth, flexibility, and a more balanced roster. That's how you build a true contender. Now look, I wouldn't hate it if the Lakers somehow landed Lively. He's already showing signs of being a future franchise center, and he's so young. But let's be real. Why would Dallas even put him on the table? If anything, they'd move Daniel Gafford first, before they think about giving up Lively. And that's why I just don't see the logic in giving up Austin Reaves, plus a first-round pick for this package. Sure, Caleb Martin could give you short-term 3-and-D help, but is that really the best use of your assets? I don't think so. Those same assets could be flipped for a high-upside wing or a versatile two-way guard. Imagine pairing Luka and Ayton with someone like Jalen Suggs, still young, still developing, but already proven as a defender and secondary playmaker. That's the type of move that solves multiple long-term needs without leaving other holes to fill. Because here's the truth, trading for Lively might actually create more problems than it solves. If Ayton's already working out, why double down at the same position? Instead, use those resources to lock down the wing spot, bring in another two-way piece, and round out the roster. That way, you're carving out fewer gaps to patch later, instead of selling the farm for a player you might not even need. Now, if this opportunity had been there earlier, say, right when the Lakers first made the move for Luka, then absolutely, I'd be all in. Back then, solving the center position for now and the future, while adding a versatile wing like Caleb Martin, would have been perfect. You could have slotted him in for Austin Reaves if necessary, or gone bigger with guys like Jared Vanderbilt or Dorian Finney-Smith. That kind of lineup gives you size, versatility, and a better matchup against teams like Minnesota. But today, with Ayton starting to settle in as that franchise big, I just don't think it makes the same sense anymore. At the end of the day, this is all about perspective. Personally, I don't think the trade makes a lot of sense right now, but that's just my take. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the Lakers should go all in for Derek Lively? Or should they stay the course with DeAndre Ayton and build around him? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, because this debate isn't going away anytime soon. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel and lets me know you're enjoying this kind of content. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of the latest updates. Appreciate all the support, and I'll catch you in the next one.